Have you ever taken a photo and felt like something was off? Not just a blurry shot or bad lighting, but a deep, unsettling feeling that you captured something you shouldn't have. That's what happened to my friend, Leo. And what he found still gives me chills. Leo is an urban explorer. He loves old, abandoned placista, history, the decay, the silence. Last fall, he explored the old Blackwood Manor, a place that had been empty for nearly a century. The story goes that the last owner, a recluse named Elias Blackwood, vanished without a trace, leaving everything behind. The house just sat there, slowly being reclaimed by nature. Leah spent a whole afternoon inside. The air was thick with dust and the smell of damp wood. Sunlight struggled to pierce through the grimy windows, casting long, eerie shadows across rooms filled with furniture draped in white sheets, like sleeping ghosts. He took hundreds of photos, documenting every peeling wallpaper, every cobweb-covered chandelier, every forgotten trinket. It wasn't until he got home and started editing that he noticed it. It was in a photo of the master bedroom. The room was grand, with a massive four-poster bed and a large, ornate mirror hanging on the wall. At first glance, it was just another picture of decay. But as Leo zoomed in on the mirror, his blood ran cold. Reflected in the dusty glass wasn't just the room behind him. There was a face. It was faint, almost transparent, but undeniably there. A man's face, pale and gaunt, with hollow, dark eyes that seemed to stare right through the camera, right at Leo. The expression was one of immense sadness, a bottomless pit of despair. Leo's heart hammered against his ribs. He checked the other photos of the room. Nothing. He was sure he'd been alone in the manor. There were no other explorers, no squatters. The place was sealed tight. He tried to rationalize it. A trick of the light. Pareidolia his brain, creating a face from random patterns in the dust and smudges on the mirror. But he couldn't shake the feeling of those eyes. They were too real, too intentional. He felt watched. That night, sleep didn't come easily. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the man from the mirror. The next morning, fueled by a mix of fear and morbid curiosity, he started digging into the history of Blackwood Manor. He spent hours online, sifting through old newspaper articles and local archives, and that's when he found it. A grainy, black-and-white photograph of Elias Blackwood, taken shortly before he disappeared. The face was identical, the same gaunt cheeks, the same high forehead, and the same hollow, sorrowful eyes. The article detailed the mystery of his disappearance. Elias had been obsessed with photography, a new art form at the time. He was particularly fascinated with spirit photography, practice of capturing ghosts on film. Friends and family said he became increasingly withdrawn, convinced he could bridge the gap between the living and the dead through his lens. Then, one day, he was just gone. A cold dread washed over Leo. He looked back at his photo, at the ghostly image of Elias Blackwood trapped in the mirror. Had Elias succeeded? Had he somehow photographed his own spirit, trapping himself between worlds, forever bound to his beloved home? This is where the story should end, right? A creepy photo, a historical mystery, solved. But it didn't end there. That night, things got worse. Leo was working late in his study, the photo of the manor bedroom still open on his computer screen. He got up to get a coffee, and when he returned, he froze in the doorway. The image on the screen had changed. It was subtle, but terrifying. The face in the mirror. It was clearer, more defined. And the expression, it was different. The sadness was still there, but now it was mixed with something else. A hint of anger. The eyes seemed to burn with a cold fire. Leo slammed his laptop shut. His hands were shaking. This was impossible. JPEs don't just change on their own. He thought he was losing his mind, that the story had gotten into his head. He tried to ignore it, to forget the whole thing. He deleted the photos from his computer, from his camera's memory card, from his cloud backup. He wanted it gone. But it was too late. The feeling of being watched never left him. He'd catch glimpses of a tall, shadowy figure in his peripheral vision, only for it to vanish when he turned his head. He'd hear faint whispers in empty rooms, like the static from an old radio. The worst part is the mirrors. Any reflective surfacey window at night, a polished countertop. Even the dark screen of his phone, he'd see a fleeting image of those sad, angry eyes staring back at him. One evening, he was video chatting with his girlfriend. They were talking about their day when she suddenly went pale. "Leo," she whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "Who's that behind you?" Leo's room was empty. He knew it was, but he slowly turned around anyway. Of course, there was nothing there. When he turned back to the screen, his girlfriend was crying. "He was right there!" she sobbed. "A tall, pale man. He was looking right over your shoulder." That was the breaking point. Leo was terrified. He felt like he was being haunted, stalked by the spirit of Elias Blackwood. He felt that by taking that picture, he had somehow disturbed Elias, or worse, invited him into his own life. The ghost wasn't just in the photo anymore. It had latched onto him. Desperate, Leo contacted a local paranormal investigation team. He told them everything, showed them the original photo he had luckily saved on a separate drive. They agreed to investigate his apartment. They came with all their gear, EMF meters, thermal cameras, audio recorders. 4 hours. Nothing happened. The investigators were polite, but skeptical. Then, they set up in his study. They placed a digital voice recorder on his desk and asked questions into the empty air. "Elias, are you here? What do you want?" They sat in silence, waiting. Later, when they played back the audio, they captured something that made everyone in the room freeze. Right after the question, "What do you want?" a faint, whispery voice, raspy and old, was clearly audible. It said just one word. "Release. Release. Release. Release." From what? The mirror. The house. The photograph. Leo realized that Elias wasn't angry at him for taking the photo. He was pleading. Trapped for a century, he saw Leo's camera not as an intrusion, but as a potential escape. He wasn't haunting Leo. He was trying to communicate the only way he knew how. Following the advice of the investigators, Leo did something that felt both strange and profound. He printed the photo of the mirror, the one with Elias's face in it. Then, he went back to Blackwood Manor. It was a cold, moonless night. Standing outside the crumbling estate, he lit a small, contained fire. As he watched the flames grow, he held up the photograph. "Elias Blackwood," he said, his voice shaking but firm. "I don't know if you can hear me. You've been trapped for too long. Whatever bound you to that mirror, to that house, I release you from it. Be free." He then dropped the photo into the fire. The paper curled, the image of the mirror and the ghostly face within it blackening before turning to ash. As the last embers died down, a sudden gust of wind swept through the trees, making them rustle and sigh. And then, silence. A deep, profound peace settled over the grounds. The oppressive weight that had hung in the air was gone. Leo never felt the presence again. The shadows in his peripheral vision disappeared. The whispers stopped. When he looked in a mirror, the only reflection he saw was his own. He doesn't do much urban exploring anymore. He learned that some places are left abandoned for a reason, and some doors are best left unopened. And sometimes, when you take a picture, you might capture more than just a memory. You might capture a soul waiting to be set free. So next time you're looking through your photos, look closely. Pay attention to the shadows, the reflections. You never know whose eyes might be looking back. Thanks for listening. If you have your own spooky story, share it in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more strange tales. Stay safe out there.